Hello everyone, I am Bradley Sward, Associate Professor of Computer Information Systems at the College of DuPage in Glen Ellen, Illinois. And this video today is going to use GameMaker Studio version 2, and we're going to go ahead and make a top-down horror slash survival game. I usually use the term Slenderman for this because, Slenderman is a very 3D game, but we're going to turn it into a top-down game. We're going to have like a little fog of war effect. Well, let me just show you what we're going to be doing here. Let me minimize this and run this and then drag everything over so you can see it. So this is kind of what I'm going for here. I've got a guy, the mouse can dictate him rotating around in space, and don't mind this is just the frame rate, just making sure the game is locked solid at 30 frames per second. And so I can move around and notice the trees here. When I touch the trees, their opacity changes so I can kind of see underneath them. And one thing you might notice is I have the Slender Man, or whatever you want to call him. You can tell my artwork is just divine. Where did he go? I did see him. Oh no, that's the fun of this, right? Like, where did a Slender Man go? But the whole point of this game is to go ahead and try to find the 8 notes that Slender Man has hidden. And again, Slender Man, this game's been around forever. There he is, trying to find me. Oh my goodness, he's coming after me. He's got a little bit of AI because, otherwise how would he know where I am? And so my goal is right now is to go ahead and there's my note. And so I'm supposed to get the 8 notes before the Slender Man gets me. So the winning condition is get 8 notes. The losing condition is get touched by Slender Man, and there I go. And so I set up a little extra room here, a secondary room, so that you can go, hey, whatever graphic you want to put up with blood flying all over the place, or whatever it is you want this game to do. And so on the other way, when it comes to the node itself, I don't have anything just yet. This is just a demo version. This is just something I've done in the past. So I'm going to completely make a fresh one. And so I hope my art lives up to my lives up to my own standards here. So there's the note, and as you might expect, there we go. This kicks out on you. So another thing you might notice is the game is actually, this is new to a lot of my students at this point, is that the game is larger than just one screen. A lot of the games we make is just Flappy Bird on one screen, but this is the player can walk around and there's an actual camera view that is a camera larger than the actual world itself, right? Just like in real life, the things we see are just one tiny little portion of everything that we can see out in the universe. So a lot going on here. I mean, it's a lot, but it's not truly a ton. So we'll start getting to it. And I don't have any sprites ready. I'm gonna do everything fresh today, just to again show off my artwork. I'm going to keep the game to 720p resolution, but that doesn't mean that doesn't mean I have to keep to like weird sizes for my sprites. So I can keep the defaults here for a lot of these things. Things we do need, I need some kind of wall sprite. And I'm going to use 32 by 32 as the default. I'll just make it 40 by 40. I'll make it 40. Everything I'm going to do here is 40 by 40 because that's just what I'm used to doing. Let me just rename this like lowercase s. All right, and go ahead and just fill this in just a dark gray box or something like that with whatever it is. And of course, if you want to go find a graphic that looks better, that's your prerogative. I'm just doing the bare bones minimum. Again, as a programmer, my experience with this would be, hey, artist, give me some art. Just like they'd be like, hey, programmer, give us some programming. So there is my wall sprite. I need some kind of, human hero. So this one could be a little bigger if you want it to be. Since it's 40 by 40, I'll use 60 by 60. Or no, yeah, I'll just keep to 40 by 40. And so everything is kind of small, but you kind of get the picture here. And so I'm going to have this, maybe we'll make this bigger. Let's just see what it looks like in the game world before we get going. So I will put a balding head right in the middle of this thing. How would I know about any of that? I don't know. But I'm going to put something like this here in the middle. I'm going to fill it in with something just a little, what color? There we go, something like that, and I'm going to give them like shoulders, and we'll see about adding maybe some feet or something like that. And every time I do this, I forget I should do the other, this part first. This just makes me fill it in by hand, which is fine. That wasn't so bad. And then just to keep it kind of halfway symmetrical. And I am pointing this guy to the right on purpose because if he's facing forward, which happens to be this way, that way, that's the 0 degree. When it comes to the 360-degree scale that we use mathematically to determine, 0 is right, 90 is up, 180 is left, and 270 is down. So later on, when I do actually go to rotate this thing, I won't have any issues. If you do have this set up differently, then you will have some issues because it will set up such that you'll have to do an extra rotation. You'll have to do some extra math to rotate the thing in space. Okay, so just to keep it going here, just since I'm doing this in a video, not in class, I can have a little more, can add a little more oomph to this thing. So this will be the idle state, and maybe if you want to, do you want to add shoes? That's the question. I want to add shoes, but like as a step, let me find like a dark brown or something like that. So I would just go ahead and just draw it in. And again, here's my artwork. No, that's not right. The feet are a little further over, right? So let's see. Here's a foot. Yeah, perfect. It's whatever. Oops, fill this in. That's one. Copy this over so I have this, and then copy it one more time, and then fill in. What color did I use for the? I used that and that. Okay, so then I fill in, draw my other foot somewhere in here, and then fill in the darker color. And so what have I got out of this? I can run this. There we go. It looks horrendous, but it gets the job done, and it's a little fast. You can slow it down if you want to. We will slow it down to something that looks a little better in the future here. So that looks good for a hero. Let me pause him so he doesn't do anymore. I've got my wall. I've got my hero, and that's all we need for just the time being, just to kind of get something going, and then we'll just kind of iterate through and advance and add some more stuff. Okay, so let's get some objects going for these two guys. I need wall sprites, or wall objects. And so I use wall sprite. Oh yes, and before I get to the hero, I want to center this character middle center so that again, when I do the rotation doesn't look all crazy like a spirograph or something. So he's centered right in the middle of his big bald head, and then everything will rotate accordingly. Okay, so I'll create my hero object using the hero sprite. And so we have the two things we need, so now I'll just call this, I'll rename this gameplay room the horror room, right? Gameplay room. And inside of here, let's see, everything is 32 by 32. I need to change this to 40 by 40 because, again, I've changed all my graphics to 40 by 40, and this grid is a tool to help me put objects in the room much easier than alternative ways. Okay, so coming now, like I said, I want a 720p resolution, but that's just for my camera. That's just for my viewport. So the world itself is going to be larger, and just for the sake of this, I'm 720p resolution. I can just make it whatever. I'm just going to make it, let's see, 2400. I'll make it 2400 by, let's see, what's this at 1400? Does that fit? 1600. Pretty big, right? So this now you can see I've scaled out control scroll wheel so I can kind of scroll in and out my game world. And now if you really want to, you can go ahead and hold down Alt and drag in and create wall objects. And I'm not going to worry too much about their placement. I'm just kind of putting them in. Of course, I would be much more careful. Okay, so I want some kind of boundary, and then just so we can see things moving around if we are in the middle area, right now I'm just going to add stuff. So no matter where I am on the screen, I will be able to, or in the world, I'll be able to see this kind of stuff. And as I move around, I will see this as well. I'm going to put the hero, you can put him wherever you want. I usually put him up here. I'm just going to, oh my God, I'm going to go crazy today and put him over here near the middle top of the screen. It doesn't much matter where you put it. And so now if I run this, just like this, what happens? And there you go. So what happened is GameMaker does its best to take the entire room and put it on my screen. And so I would be willing to bet it's giving me 1080p realness here when it comes to its graphical quality. Our character, but since we haven't touched the animation, is walking in place or jogging in place or whatever the heck he's doing there. And so this is a great first step, of course, but we want to continue on and add the viewport. So let's see. I'm not going to need a lot of layers here, so I can bring this up and I'm not going to really need to play with that stuff. But this is where all the viewports and camera settings are stored. And so this is, if this is your first time, this takes sometimes a little getting used to, and sometimes everything you can do in here fights the code you might want to write. At least if you when I do this more advanced, sometimes they kind of battle each other for supremacy, and so sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. So it's kind of like the viewports are kind of like the cruise control on your car, in that you have to enable it, but then even though you enable it, you really haven't started the cruise control yet. So in this case, all I do is enable the viewports, if I just click that one thing, now everything is completely blank, because even though I said enable viewports, I didn't enable any of the individual viewports that GameMaker has set aside for me. So there's nothing to draw. Even though my whole game is there, you're basically saying there's no cameras to show me this game world anymore. So we've completely taken over from the automaticness of what GameMaker does. So generally speaking, we just take over viewport 0. And there's a lot going on in a viewport. Let's see if I can get it all on. Get it all on here. Okay, so there's camera properties, viewport properties, object following, and then a border, and a speed, and all these other things. And I'm going to keep it relatively simple for this. There's many ways we could go ahead and do this, but coming back to this, like this is the camera. How, basically, how would I zoom out? Like, what am I actually trying to picture with my camera? And just for the sake of this, I could say 0, 0. I could say my width is 1280 and my height is 720. And let's see, will it show me? I wish it would. Why isn't it showing me the camera view in here? Nah, whatever, not necessarily matter. But this is basically saying, okay, I want my camera to, whenever it takes a picture of my game world, I want it to take a picture in 720p resolution. So, I mean, that's what we want to end up in our window, and that's the viewport properties. So to keep the proportion 1:1, you just take it and say, okay, 1280, 720. Take, basically the camera is take a picture, and then the viewport part of it is how do I stretch that picture to fit the screen, right? Just like you could take a picture. You just take a photograph, and then you can adjust the viewport properties using your fingers on your phone and all that to zoom in or zoom out or do whatever you want with that specific picture. So it's a very strong parallel here. So what does that do for me? Nothing, because after all that hard work, even changing all of these things, I did not make it visible. And that's why I couldn't find it a minute ago. All these little click parts, it's really easy to forget one. You have to make sure you enable viewports, and you have to make sure you click visible for all the viewports that you actually want to use. So viewports 1 through 7, there's 8 viewports in here. The other 7 viewports are sitting there unused. And so now, here we go, there's something. And it's a lot better, right? This is my 720p resolution, and here is my screen. And so just for the sake of this real quick here, just so that the lighting in here is bright in my eyes because the sun's coming in this way on me. And so I can take my background and say, okay, let's add a background color that's like a darker green, like a grass. Oh, well, whatever. It's better than the black that I had before. I can actually see this now. And so, like, if you were going to do this for real, go find a graphic somewhere, some kind of grass texture or whatever kind of texture you need for your ground, right? So, but at least it's a step. Okay, so I have this, and notice the character is nowhere on here because this is just saying, okay, start in the 0, 0, start in the upper left-hand corner. And if you look at this camera viewport here, you see the character is not part of this. And that's what the rest of this will do, and this is what we want to have happen. Like, there are other ways to scroll around with the mouse and have the, like an RTS game or something like that where you could scroll the mouse around. But in this, we're just going to follow the player. So I can say follow hero. And now that, this doesn't change this here, but when we run the game, you see that here's my hero now. At least he's on the screen, right? And maybe he's not, it's like he's not centered or anything like that, but at least we're getting closer. And that's what these other settings are here for. So HBOR, it's called HBOR and VBOR in the codes, that's why I call it horizontal border, vertical border. And this is asking how many pixels do you want the character to be from the edge of the screen before the camera pans with the character. And so, so that is perfectly legitimate the way things turned out, because this character is more than 32 pixels away from the edge of the screen as it moved the camera to accommodate this hero object. So what can I do? Usually what I do is if you want it exactly centered, almost, I mean, is all the time, you just take your viewport, you just cut the two values in half. So if I wanted this exactly in half, I would do 640 by 360, because 640 is 1280 halved, and 360 is 720 halved. And so now there we go. And it's not going to work if you are on the edges of the screen. It's not going to work out because the camera will never pan or never move to somewhere that's outside of the room, at least automatically. I can write code to make that happen, but I'm not going to write that. Because so right now when you're playing the game, you know when you're on the edge of the room. And I don't believe in that. I think the camera should keep on going because if I knew I was on the edge of the room, I would know not to experiment and try to blow things up or something to see if there's anything behind those walls. But if I could keep on going and I could see stuff behind that wall, I might think, oh, maybe there's still more to the room. So, it's one of those, that's a design issue more than a development issue. So it's like, it depends on what you want your player to experience. Okay, so the hero hasn't moved yet, but this horizontal speed and vertical speed is basically how fast do you want the camera to catch up to the player. And so -1 means just go as fast as you can to hook up. But if I made this like a 1 and like horizontal speed 1, see if I can do this fast enough. Here we go. You can see that the camera is trying to catch up, but the camera is panning 1 pixel per frame to catch up to where the character, where I actually want the character to be if everything was perfect. And there you go. It took time, and now the character is there. So it's up to you if you want the camera to pan or not. I'm just going to say no. Just have the camera set up and just kind of go. Okay, last thing I do here for this type, just to get the hero moving, I'm going to add some touch or keyboard events. I'm just going to use WSAD events for this here. So key down, key pressed is one thing, but I want key down. And if I press the up arrow key, if any frame I'm holding down, oh geez, I just talked about this. Let me just change this. Instead of key press, I want key down letters W, and I want that character to go up. And so, it's like, we're going to rotate the character, but in this case, we're not rotating the world. So up is always going to be up, left, and right, and down. So the character can always walk around, and the character will look like it's strafing as it's trying to look at a certain angle. So just like, in the real world, you could walk backwards, you could walk sideways, you could do all sorts of stuff. So just to say here, oh shoot, I forgot. There's no such thing as a move context solid in GameMaker drag and drop. So this is just my default way of moving characters around. So I want my walls to be solid, and I got to write code to make this work, but it's not hard. It's one line. Oops, that's code, not contact. I know what I want to type though. And so, I hate drag and drop. Okay, so let's see, how do we get this over? And so I want to do a move context solid. And in this case, what am I doing? Oops, I didn't spell it right. So what am I trying to do? Direction, I'm trying to go up. So up is the 90 degrees. And how fast do I want this character to go? I don't know. I'm just going to give it a 5. And that's part of the gameplay, is just making sure, what do I want this thing to do? So like how fast and what direction. So right now, the only way the character can move is up. Oh, W. There we go. And with the move context solid in place, the character never gets jammed inside of the wall. And so if I don't make this solid, if my walls are not solid, obviously you can imagine a move context solid will not work, because that function only applies to the solid objects in my scene. Okay, so then just to finish up the deal here, duplicating events for key down letters S. Just changing, and all it is just changing the value of the direction. 270 is down. Duplicate for key down letters A. A goes to the left, so that will be a 180. And then duplicating that for key down D, letter D. And then I'm just changing this, so D is to the right, that's a 0. So at least right now, oh shoot, did I click back on the walls? Nope, forgot to do that. Let me do that real quick. Alright, so then I've got my character up, down, left, right, and notice the camera moves with you. And so I don't personally like to have the guy centered, like every time I move the camera comes with me. So I like to reduce this just a little bit. I like to, maybe 300 by 310 or something like that. So then now there's a little center zone. The character can move around a little bit before the camera comes with it, and you could play with this. It depends on how you want things to be, but to me, I would probably want to add maybe just a little bit more on both ends of this thing. So there's a little more of the center area, so the camera doesn't move non-stop as soon as I want to do anything. So yeah, so like that, I can move a little bit horizontally, vertically, and again, completely your call. Alrighty, so then the final thing here, before I pause my video and move on to the next thing, I want to have this hero rotate himself to face the mouse pointer every single frame. So that's a step event. And so one of the things here, I don't want to do it. I don't want to show it. But what will happen is if I just used image angle and just said, okay, find where the mouse is, find the direction, and just rotate myself. There's move contact solid functions that will make sure that as I'm moving around, I do not get stuck in a wall. But there is no such thing, at least I'm aware of, as like a move rotate solid. So I can't just be like, rotate 10 degrees, and then it'll rotate as much as it can, because the bounding box comes with it. And the bounding box stays, or it doesn't stay when I rotate. The whole bounding box goes, but there's no check. So if I rotate 45 degrees, that bounding box can get stuck in the wall, and then my character can't move anymore until I rotate out. And that is definitely not something I want to have happen. So rather than show this and just trust me on it, it happens all the time when you rotate things, and the more you rotate it, the more trouble you can have. So the setup for this is I can set up to say, okay, move towards point. I think there's a move towards point. Set point direction. Yep, that's it, right? Set point. Let me ask for help here. Set point direction. This action is used to set a direction from a vector formed by the current position of the instance to the given position. So yes, this will take my position and the mouse's position, and it'll tell me in the 360-degree realm of everything, what number value is that direction value. So I definitely want to say, okay, point me toward the mouse, mouse X, mouse Y. And this says point direction, so this sets direction. So even if I run this right now, it will not change anything as I move the mouse around, because the direction is not the image angle. But I discussed image angle. You don't want to play with image angle here, because you don't want to get stuck in the wall. So what I can do here is in the step event, in the draw event. So step event is one thing. The direction doesn't apply. Since I don't have any speed applied to this, I'm using move contact solid functions. The direction is a perfectly legitimate place to put that data. But in the draw event here, make sure I'm in the draw event, what I can do here is basically, it's a three-step process. I say, okay, only here inside the draw, for a brief moment, can I take my image, rotate it, draw it, and then put it back. That's the whole thought process. So the bounding box, in essence, is only modified in the brief moment I need to draw the thing on the screen. So I can say image angle, that's what rotates the image, is equal to direction. Okay, and then I can say draw self, so I don't have to do any extra work there. And then I can say put the direction, or put the image angle back to 0, because 0 is the default. And so now here is my character. He's rotating around. You can see it. My character's not very big, but you can see it. And then even when I'm walking around, even though it doesn't look like he's getting stuck in the wall, but he would get stuck in the wall if I was pressing up and left and right and all sorts of stuff. Oh, there you go. I can see that. I am in the wall as I rotate, but I can still move, because technically that bounding box has shifted, and I'm putting it back to square, and that square is outside of this thing. So it looks pretty good. I'm never stuck in a wall, because that's very frustrating. You're trying to run away, and you're you're stuck like jelly or jam or glue to a wall. You wouldn't play that game for very long if that was the case. Okay, so, and then finally here for the player, I am going to set up so that the feet move, the feet only move while the character is walking around. Okay, so what I can do here is in So this is interesting stuff, right? If I press key down, key down, key down, key down, like I can set the image speed. So I can say, okay, oops, I can do a move context solid, and then where's my drag and drop? Let me get rid of code here. If I'm going to set a variable, I could type it in, but I'm going to keep it to drag and drop as much as I can. So I'm going to say, oh, my image speed should be, I always think a number between 0.15 and 0.2 kind of matches, generally speaking, matches what a character looks like when they walk. But I think that was back in the old days when it was 30 frames per second. So if I set this thing to 0.1, and this is the fun of it, if I copy it, let me just, here, let's see what W does for it. If I press W to go down, image speed is 0.1. I think that's, did it even change? It's interesting. Why is it? But you can see, you can't see anything. Okay, so you can see the thing has slowed down substantially. So maybe 0.1, so maybe put it back to 0.15 and try it again. So you can see, yeah, that looks about right, when it comes to walking speed. Yeah, okay. I mean, it's up to you, whatever you think, maybe a little faster, 0.175. So I'm going to copy this just because right now that is not the most important thing here. So hero A, paste that in, hero D, paste that in, hero S, paste that in. Whoops, didn't do it. There it goes. And then just to make sure I still have it in the W, yes I do. So that occurs in every case here. There we go. So it's, and then keep going. So there we go. And then the only thing I need to do here is make sure when I start the guy off in a create event, which I don't have yet, I have to set that image speed to 0 so he's not running in place. And then I need to also do this when every frame that the character's not moving. And this is where things get tricky, because if I was doing this in real code, I would have put all these key events in the step event, and that way I know if I'm not moving or something. It's just really difficult. So actually what I can do is duplicate this image speed 0 and put this into the begin step event. Because we have to start understanding the order of events inside of a game frame or just inside of our game. And so the begin step event gets called at the beginning of a new iteration, a new game frame. And that will always get called before the step event and any of the key presses. So if I set the thing to 0, basically this is saying for this game frame, so far no movement has been found. And then we will very quickly figure out that we are needing to move when we get to that point, when we get to the key press events. So now the character should only, so there's no foot movement, and now the character only walks, there we go, as I am working it out. And so it stops, and of course I'm not going to go any further, but yeah, maybe you want to put them back to the idle state. That's a little more complicated than it needs to be here, is to put it back to idle state and just have it draw the 0 frame, so it's not drawing a footprint, because nobody stops like that in the real world, right? Nobody just stops like, well, creeps do, right? It's a creeper, like, or if you're playing freeze tag or something like that. But people in the real world do not stop with one foot hanging out, especially if they're going to rotate around in space. So just something for your thought process there. But when it comes to the typical movement of my hero, I think we're pretty good here. I think we're ready to move on to other things. Okay, now adding the trees that I want to add, add a little ambiance to this. You're out in the forest somewhere, Slenderman's coming for you. So first thing I want to do is add the tree sprite, and this should be a little bigger than everything else. I'll make it like, doesn't really matter what size, 135 by 135, there we go, that's nice. And again, my art skills are wonderfully awesome, and so I will just draw something here to make it look like it's a tree, or like the tops of the tree. We're not going to worry about the whatchamacallit, we're not going to worry about the trunks or anything like that. We're just going to go with it. Let me make sure I fill that in here. And so there's my beautiful, wonderful tree. There we go. And so now add something. There we go. And I'm going to want this thing, I guess, does it matter if it's centered? I don't know, but I'm going to center it anyway. Oh yeah, I gotta change the name of it, tree sprite. No, so there you go. And we're actually gonna, like you could have multiple trees. I've seen a lot of people when I give this homework assignment, I do a lot of cool things with trees, find cool effects and kind of do all sorts of crazy stuff. But for now, we're not gonna worry so much. So I have my tree. I'm gonna give it the tree sprite, and so I'm gonna put it, put it in the room wherever you think they should go. Oops, I'm in the background instance. So I can't really do much. So whatever, however you want to do it. I recommend not overlapping or try to overlap as little as possible because when the opacity comes around, it's going to look a little weird. Because it's like, think of sunglasses. If you put a pair of sunglasses in front of a pair of sunglasses, it's like, what do you see in those little cases? You see double darkness, and so the opacity can get a little funky. And just to test it out, like I'll put a few here. I'll put a few down here just so you could see what it's like when we walk around and you can kind of see. And so we don't need the trees, totally up to you what you want to do. And so I want to make sure the trees are drawn above the person. So I want to guarantee that. So one of the first things I want to do here in the create event is set the depth settings. You could set up a whole different instance layer if you want to, but again, I think that's overkill. Maybe that's just me. Maybe that's just me using the old GameMaker and just using depth for many, many years before the layering system came out in version 2. But I think in the simple cases, you just tinker with depth and you do not have to worry about these more complicated layers. And so that's one way I want to do this. And since I centered the tree, since every tree will look identical, it'll look exactly the same, at least I can kind of give you a little something different here. And I can say, okay, my image angle is going to be equal to irandom, or just random or whatever, 360. And what that does is picks a random value for that specific tree, and it rotates the thing around so each tree will look a little different. At least it'll be rotated slightly, theoretically be rotated slightly differently, and there you can see that. And now I can move around and say I'm always underneath because the trees are being in negative depth. The trees will always be drawn on top of the player, which is good because that's reality, right? But just like, this is a video game, and if I'm here, I'm like, where is my player? I don't remember anymore. And so in this case, what I can do here is set up, when I'm touching the thing, to set the image alpha on this thing. And kind of like we did before with the begin step, I need on a frame-by-frame basis to kind of reset the thing. So I can use a begin step event and just say, okay, my image alpha is going to start out at 0. I'm sorry, start out at 1. So it's going to be completely opaque, completely visible. And if, on a frame-by-frame basis, this collision happens after the begin step event, if I collide with the hero, then I will set the image alpha to some value, maybe 0.4. And this is completely up to you and your gameplay experience. So like here, there you go. So you can kind of see, you can see even that, right, between the player here, that the player looks normal when he's not under the tree, and he looks like he's under the tree when he is. So that's pretty cool, right? So you don't get lost anymore. At least you can see where you are. And this is what I was talking about earlier here, that you have regions where you have double opacity effects going on, and they're all fighting each other for this alpha value. And so maybe it looks a little weird to you. If it doesn't, then keep going with it. But if it does, then you definitely understand that you got to do something about these kind of things and keep the trees from colliding with one another or something like that. But otherwise, these trees are done. And now we're ready to move on to, I guess the bad guy. Let's do Slender. Okay, so Slenderman himself is going to start chasing you very, 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 very slowly. And then I think as I pick up these notes, that'll be the last part of this, and just as he picks up notes, we're going to have to do something about that. So the most easy way for me to do this is just to duplicate this, call him Slender Sprite, and just change, for now, just change the graphic up. This is why you like to usually just use a tint on the thing. I'm just gonna, let's see, I can't do it on a frame by frame basis, can I, or like overall. So I'll just call it Slender Sprite. I guess we could, I'm just gonna use that, and then I'm gonna tint it. So let me just get them in the room. Let me just show you what I'm talking about here. Let me just use my Slenderman. There's my Slender. Use this Slenderman sprite so when I have more time I could go back and fix it up and be much more, much better rendition of what I'm trying to do. And so in here I could say on create, I don't know, is it part of here? Let's see, alpha. Set instance alpha. I'm not alpha. Yeah, alpha. No, tint. Sorry, tint. Tinting, or what is it, color? Set draw color, set, no, not, okay, so I guess we'll have to do something about this and just say, okay, I want to set the blend color, image blend. Oh, wait, hold on, let me see, I didn't think of blend. Set instance color, there we go. Yeah, there's a drag and drop for that. Okay, the tinting of this, set instance color. And so what this means is I can take the Slenderman image, so that's like the fleshy brownish peach head in the blue, and I can apply, basically just shine a specific color light on it. And as you can imagine, we usually shine white light on this thing, on every object in our scene, because that's the, that is the color. White light gets us the color that we're expecting to see. And say I'm not an artist, so like for all this like primary colors and secondary colors and all these things, like if I shine a blue light on a green object, or if I shine a mauve on a goldenrod, like I can't in my head figure out what colors should come out of this. But I can say for this, just apply, make it like poisonous or something. So like a dark green or something like that. Let's see, in fact, not the alpha, but let's see, can I bring down, make it like a dark green hue? And what happens if I put the Slenderman right next to me in the room just to see what it looks like? And you can kind of get a feel for what I'm trying to talk about here. And you go, that's horrendous. Can you even see it? I have to, like, this room is bright. So yeah, green is not the best choice. The contrast, if you want a very difficult game, you basically have an almost invisible object. So no, maybe not green. So maybe let's go with just, I don't know, blue. Try it one more time. Let's see what happens. Just make it so it, blue is terrible too. Make it red. And then if it's not, whatever, just whatever it is. Oops, I didn't actually set it. There we go. Again. There we go. That's at least something. So there's my Slender Man. He's red. He's just angry, or who knows what. He's just maybe he's had his skin removed. You didn't hear me say that. I don't know. But there he is. There's my character, and he's ready to come after me. Or if you want to, you could just leave. Now that you know about it, you could just leave the tint white and just have the character look like you. He's your twin brother. I don't know. But that looks the best, right? So again, that was just to show you that you can do these kind of things. And like old video games, way back in the day when we didn't have a lot of memory, I'm thinking of like the original Dragon Warrior series or something for the original Nintendo. Like you had a blue slime and a red slime and a gold slime and a silver slime and whatever all the other slimes. It's been forever. I haven't played Dragon Quest in a long time. Forget all the different colors. But it was the same graphic, but they tinted the sprite differently, so they didn't have to create different images for different, for the same image, just in different colors. So it was one image, and then they would tint it to the different colors. And that was a pretty smart way of doing things. So maybe this doesn't fit in this instance, but again, it has its uses, especially if you're trying to keep your file size small, if your game's small. Okay, so I have to write code to move this character after me. And I'm learning from past examples that I can't do this on a frame-by-frame basis because it just takes a lot of work. Like there's a lot of processing that goes on. So if I did this on a frame-by-frame basis, my frame rate will drop. So what I need to do is do this every so often and just say set alarm. And I'll just set it to 1 to start, 1 game frame. And then what happens in my alarm event is when the alarm goes off 1 frame in, I have to write the code. Where's my help? Where's my help? There's my help. So I'm going to use this function since there's I didn't see a drag and drop element. There used to be one, but I didn't see one here. MP to potential step object. There are better ways than this to do AI and do pathfinding, except for the fact that it requires a lot more code and pathing and like a lot more stuff that I'm willing to go through right here to get the job done. So I need this function. And so let's just go ahead and go back to my Slender. And so in the alarm event, I can go ahead and write code and say, okay, code, put you in and then fill in the details here. So I need, oh geez, it doesn't make that bigger. Okay, so come on. There we go. All right, MP potential step. Where do I want to go to? I want to go to the X position of the hero. I want to go to the Y position of the hero. What is his speed? Slow. 1. And what object is he following? Oh, wait. What is that one? Hold on. What is that? The ID that is to block the path. Oh, okay. What objects are going to block the path? The walls. And if we needed something else, we could make a larger hierarchy. So let's see what happens. Okay. He's not doing anything. Okay. Does this need to be in a step event? Let's see. Maybe it does have to be. Let's see. Where does the example... Does it say anything about where this code should go? Because we're doing things pretty much exactly the same. The only thing I can imagine is it is in a... Maybe let me just try to change this, because I know it's going to slow down the frame rate. But let me just change this into a step event and see what happens. Because our code is almost identical. There it is. Okay, so that's all there is to it. And so there he is. He's coming after me. And it's not going to be perfect. See how he's, like right now, yeah, he went the wrong way to try to get to me, and then he's just kind of coming around. It's not a perfect AI. It's not using Dijkstra's A-star algorithm or anything like that, but it's doing its best to try to get me. Come get me. And so it's pretty good. So 1 is a pretty good starting speed to come up. Again, sorry everybody. Oh, you can see it. Never mind. Just 2 screens. It's all crazy stuff. Okay, so the last thing I need to do then is to rotate this image so it looks like he's coming at me, because right now he's just standing in one direction, just using his brain or whatever to figure out where to go. So in a step event, use this MP potential step, and then I can just say image angle. I'll write code here equals direction. Now let's see what that does. And there he goes. Now he's looking like he's coming after me, because what happens is the direction, the speed, and the direct. Oh goodness, he's he's gonna throw up. He's gonna get sick coming after me. Oh boy, he can't get me. Oh my. So Slenderman, let me just adjust the collision mask just slightly here. Oh, that's interesting that it did all this automatically. So let me manually fix this. That's all it is just a manual fix here. So let me reduce the bounding box on this thing just a little bit, from the 5 to 35, 5 to 35. There we go. So the bounding box is a little smaller for that character now. So now he can't do that again. Let's see what happens, and we'll slow his movement down as well. So let's see, can I get him to do the rotate thing? There he goes. Come on, rotate. He's gonna come get me. There we go. Come on, you got this. Nope. There he comes. Okay. So note to artist, note to game level designer, add a little more space than just 1 square. Right? That's just, at least in the current moment, that's how things are. Okay, so then I can just, in here too, I have my alarm countdown. I don't need my alarm counter anymore, since I'm not going to worry about it, since on my computer everything seems to be working pretty well. And then I just want to set the, set the image speed to that 0.175 I was using earlier. So his footprints, he looks like he's a little, it looks a little more labored than that frantic leg kick that he was doing before. So he's always coming after me with the legs. Just let me get rid of that thing in the room, huh? This only came about because the mouse couldn't keep up with me. Couldn't keep up with me anyway, so let's just leave some of this stuff open. There we go. So let's see, anything else? Everybody else looks happy. At least 2 squares around. So now it's the character can come after me a little better. And you can't see like that's kind of cool. Like when you're under there, you can see him, but if he's under the trees, you don't know he's there. So it's going to add a little fun effect to that. But he will chase me down nonstop as best as he can. He'll get stuck, you know, like that's fine. I think it kind of adds to it because the scariness, we're going to add a fog of war effect the last thing we do. So it's like you don't really know if he's a mile away from you or a couple inches away from you, especially if you don't have your lantern fixed on, you know, whatever's in the opposite direction of where you think the character is. So I think it's pretty cool. Okay, so Slenderman then, when it comes down to it, when the hero collides with Slenderman, collision with Slenderman, I want to go to, I guess we'll just call it to the game over room. And so this is an opportunity for you to put objects in a room. And so in this case, I can just, I guess, you know, whatever I wanted to do, just to have the game over room. So when I collide between hero and Slender, go to room go to the game over room at any time when this character touches me. And there it goes. And so whatever, because you're dead, right? That's the whole point of the game, is you are dead now that Slenderman has gotten you. And this will apply throughout the entire game, all of the 8 notes and all that kind of stuff that we're trying to accomplish. So I think we're done with Slenderman for the most part. We might speed him up a little bit as we go, but at least when it comes to the basic Slenderman movement, we are done. All right, so let's add the note to this. So I'm just going to make it a 40 by 40 sprite. I'm just going to go ahead and I got white going on here already. I'll just use a white and I will draw, make it look like it's just something that's not perfectly piece of paper. There we go. Something's been crinkled around in the woods for a while. There we go. Fill it in with slightly less white stuff, and then just draw something on it to indicate it's a note. Something like that. Maybe make this maybe bring this up a little bit. There we go. So I know that's a note. So that's my note sprite. Okay, so as we were discussing here, I'm going to have 8 different notes. So in this case, I'm going to call this note 1 or note 01 or something like that. It uses the note sprite. And so I'm also going to rename this gameplay room. I'm going to call this gameplay room 001. So this is going after note 1. So you're going to see here, I'm going to set a few things up so that we can see what's going on here. So I have gameplay room 1. I'm going to put note 1 in here. So I'm going to put it wherever I think that the note should go. So I'm going to put this here. I'm going to move Slenderman over somewhere else. He's still going to follow you and all that, but he doesn't need to be right on you when you start. Okay, so then here we go with that. And so pretty simple stuff where the note is in the room. Uh-oh. Oh, I'm in the wrong. Gameplay room should go first. I don't know. Did I move? I probably modified that a minute ago. Don't know why I would have done that. It's just brain dead thinking about it. So there we go. There's my room. So gameplay room 01. I go, and then I need a collision event. So let's see what it looks like in the game. There's my note. Hey, it doesn't look too bad, right? For art, that's not horrendous. So when note 001 comes around, and I collide with, so I guess it depends on where you want to put all this stuff. Maybe we can put it in the hero, but there's a lot going on already, but we can drag this down. And I can say when I collide with note 01, instead of going to the game over room, I can go to, I'll call it read note 001, read note room 001. And so what you're doing in here is you're setting up, and so let's make that collision event happen. So I say, okay, I hit the note, I go into that room, read note 001. Okay, and so what I'll do then is I'll set up just quickly to have something here. I'll create a sprite, and I'll say this is note, or just message note, whatever you want to say, message 001 sprite. And I'll make it pretty large. You can make it full screen because it's 720. Make the 720p graphic. and just go inside of here and just say, I don't know, like, you know, whatever it is that you would want to, what that first note would read, right? So let's see, go ahead, set the text a little bigger. Why are you here? I don't know, of course, I'm just adding something as a placeholder. So there's my message one sprite. I could put this, since it's a sprite, in my read note 00 room in my background layer, I could pop that thing in. Fair enough, right? So then at least we can see something. I could, you know, like I could have done that for the dead room, but I'm just saving it for this now. Say, okay, let me get to this thing, see that it's working. Why are you here? Well, that's kind of cool that it's. Why did it do that? Why didn't it write over the previous row? It's interesting. How many objects are in this? How many objects are in this thing? Just 0, right? In this room. So why is it actually showing this over the previous room? Let's check this out. The hero collides with the note, and I go to read note room 001. That's all that's in there. So that's weird to me. Yeah, there's nothing in the instances layer here. There's no single objects in here. I'm perfectly fine, I'm perfectly fine, I'm perfectly fine. Why are you here? I kind of like it, except for the fact that that's not what I'm going for. Let's see. Is the black clear? Anyway, so what I could also do here is just make this note persistent, or I got to figure out a way to get out of the note room so I can go to room 2. So I can duplicate, I'm going to duplicate room 1 and say, okay, I'm going to put it into room 2 here. And so what I can do here is gameplay room 2, since this is where the note is, this is where I'll put the player. Because I'm trying to tell a story, or I'm trying to tell a linear story. So maybe note 2 goes over here now. This is where my player will be after he touches the note. And then we can put Slenderman. We don't have to start him. We can kind of start him somewhere else, just to kind of, you know, what if you want to give him a jump scare, because people are like, let me go up, and then maybe he'll be right here. And so it'll be a little scarier because he'll come get me, you know, be like right in front of me, even though he was a second ago he was to my left or something like that. And so I just need a way to get from inside of this read note room, and then I need to get into the next room. So what I can do here is I can just create like I'll just say controller read 001. And so all this thing does is set a timer, and just, you know, or just something like that, just set a timer. Or, timer's fine. Let me find the timer event here, set alarm timer. I'll give you 5 seconds to read it, so 300 game frames. And when alarm 0 goes off, I will change rooms, and I will say go to gameplay room 002. And I just got to make sure I put that controller object in here so that it will follow that and follow the lead and actually go to level 2. So let's see. Why are you here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. And then, there he is. And now I got to go get him. I still don't know why it's clearing out. I'm not going to worry about that in this. If you can figure it out, please put a message. I'm not going to spend the time to worry about exactly why. And then again, this is going to be note 2, but this is as far as I'm going to go, because now you kind of get a feel. You touch note 2, you go into read note room 2, you do what you got to do, and you just continue the story as far as you need to go. And then basically when you hit the 8th one, it's all good. You're all done, right? So right now this will just start over room 2 over and over and over again. And when I touch him, I die, because that's my dead room. And so just real quick then, I could be like, okay, dead message. I can make this 720p. There's always ways to make this, because this uses a ton of memory for these graphics. But at the end of the day, do I care right now? No, I'm just going to get the job done. You put text in here or something. You have been I don't know. You have been deadened. And so then in the dead, where's my dead room? Where's the game over room? That background can get this, the deadening. Message dead. I'll make this 720p. Did I make everything 720p before here? 2400, 720p. Nope, I did. Maybe that's all it was I didn't make this 720p. Let's see. Maybe that's all it was. Let's cross our fingers on that. Okay, so let's see. So let's try winning one more time. At least winning level 1 here. Okay, wiring. Nope, didn't do it. But that's still kind of cool. It draws over, and then now, of course, it'll just continue on every time I touch this. There it is. Wire you here, and then it'll start over, and then I'll die, and then we'll see how this goes. You have been deadened, and then there's no out right now, but of course you could do the same kind of stuff where you put a timer in there, and then after a certain amount of time, go back to main menu, exit the game, restart the game, whatever it is you need to do. But I've been deadened, and I'm done. And so now the final thing I want to add is a fog of war effect, because right now you can see the entire screen, but as you're rotating around, you should, the mouse should be used as a camera basically, so that or not a camera, a lantern, so you can kind of see in front of you. I think that would be a cool final part to this game. Okay, a quick and dirty fog of war effect, a lantern effect. This is not how I would do things in reality, but since this is a simple enough game, putting a giant graphic on the screen, full screen alpha, alpha blending isn't going to really damage anything because there's not much going on. So to make this work, I'm just going to create one absolutely huge image. And I mean huge. GameMaker will actually split it down. So like as much as you might like try to make it cool and try to make really cool effects, when it scales down or scales up or whatever it does, it's going to take some of that coolness away from you. So I say don't fret too much on this. I'm trying to make it too perfect. So this thing is apparently 5,000 by 5,000. There we go. Or actually, what do I? No, that's not how I do things. Here, let me just call this Fog of War sprite, and then. Whoops, okay, it takes a while. So let me start out by making this 1280p or 720p. GameMaker is chugging on me for sure. Okay, so I have my 720p resolution, and so I'm just going to say, presume the player is over here pointing to the right, or actually, yeah, for now, just he's over here, the character's here pointing to the right. And so what I would do is, let's just generate a circle for what would I want the player's visibility. Don't worry about color or anything, just fill in what would I want that player to look like. What would I want this? Now I could do a filled circle, I guess, to make it a little better here. Be like, okay, like this. Maybe this isn't the best, but I'm just going to do this just to have it, and you can tinker with the shape to your heart's content once you're happy with it. So this should be I'm going to put the character like right here when I talk about where I'm going to put it, and I'm just going to rotate, and I'm going to rotate this thing around the player. So this is going to be the viewable angle, or the viewable part of the screen. So now I just go ahead, darken this out, use the wizard tool, clear that out. And so from a standpoint now, this is going to be the clear part, and everything else is going to be black on, blackened out, so I can't see outside of this little area as I rotate my mouse around the screen. Okay, so now with that said, I can go back in here and say, now that I've done this right, now I can center this thing, or not center this thing, now I can bring this thing up to a huge, large value. And I never figure out for 720p what value does this thing need to be, because no matter where the character is on the screen, this thing needs to rotate so only this part is visible and everything else is black. But as you rotate, you need more and more and more wideness and heightness and all that, so that there's more black around this. So every portion gets blacked out. So, excuse me, my goodness. Just to make this work, I like to use 5,000 by 5,000 for my size. And then I can go into this image, fill in that black region, once GameMaker will let me, and it will. There we go. It just takes a little while. There we go. So that now that entire image is black except for that little part. And now all I have to do is set the centering to where I think I should put the player. And I'm going to put him right there. That's where the player is going to be in this whole mess, in this giant image. Okay, so the image is set, and you will notice when I go to compile this. Let me just go to let's see if it does it now. I will build. Well, can it build without running? No. Let me just see. Run, and it's where is it there? There it is. It says that it's rescaled from 5,000 to 1250 because 5,000 by 5,000 is too big. It really is too big. Where did it go? Where is it? Where is it? There it is, because your graphics card cannot handle such a large thing. So it's scaled down to 1250 by 1250. So don't worry that you're using tons and tons of memory in the game itself. GameMaker is smart enough to bring it down. So I have the image, and now it's just a matter of popping this thing on top. So I have to create my image, I call it fog of, or create my object, call it fog of war, use that sprite, and let's see, if you want to, you can, how should we do this? I'll put it in the hero. Oh, actually, I put it in the gameplay room. And that's because it's one of those things that needs to be in here, so you got to drag it in here, and it's going to be hard to see because it's so big. That's one of those things like, where should I put this thing? As long as it goes anywhere, like it doesn't have to, as long as it's in the room, and the same goes for gameplay room 2, as long as it goes in there somewhere. Because you see how cool it's going to be right there. It's going to look like that. It's going to be pretty cool, right? So as long as it's in the room, we're all good with that. And so the 2 gameplay rooms have it. I don't need it when I'm reading a note. I don't need it when it's game over. So then all I'm really going to do is say, on a step-by-step basis, move my X position, or move jump to point, or whatever, jump to point. Say go to the hero's X position, and go to the hero's Y position. So without rotation, this will lock on. So there, say, okay, so you can see it now. And now say, see the jaggedness of this as it's scaled down. It's not as nice as it was when it was 5,000 by 5,000. But you can see now, as I move around without the rotation, there it is. There's my viewable window. Everything else is darkened out. Oh, and so I guess we'll have to play with the depth settings. And because we want the fog of war to be on top of everything, right? So I need to make sure, and I guess the step event is as good a place as any to set the depth settings. And I'll set the depth to -2, just so it's on top of everything. So then now after all that, now you can see it a lot better. Now all you see is that visible area. You do not see any other part of this. And so the player is rotating. And now all we have to do, the final step on a step-by-step basis, is to say for another variable, just say the image angle of the fog of war is equal to hero's direction. Remember, it's image angle only in the draw event. We did this half an hour ago or so. And so the direction actually holds the value of where I should rotate the thing, but so that the object doesn't get stuck to a wall, we only use image angle for a brief moment in the draw event. So then now this rotates, and now you can try out, if it works in the corners, it pretty much will work everywhere. If it works here and it doesn't clear anything out, you can rotate around, and you can see everything's looking good. Just gotta watch out for Slender wherever you go. That's creepy. Oh, that is creepy. I don't think that's meant to be that way, but we could fix that another time. And then, but the fog of war is working out perfectly. How did that happen? How did that happen? Hold on. Let's check Slender one more time here when it comes to this manual rectangle, frame by frame by frame. Yeah, I don't know why he's stuck that way. Oh, yeah, no. I just told you why, right? So that's the fun of GameMaker. These kind of things screw you up. So that no, that was the fog of war. Now, image angle equals direction. This is what it comes down to here. It is the same thing I talked about. The fog of war is different than the Slenderman. So I have my create event, my image speed. I do all this stuff. But now here in the step event, where is my step event? Where are you? Hello? What? Where's the code? Where are you? What in the world? Let's close you down here. Let's take a look at your step event one more time. Did I get rid of it? What just happened? Oh no, I'm trying to end this video. You guys have been putting up with me for long enough. What's going on? Where's Slender? Yeah, I guess I accidentally got rid of it. I don't know where the code went. Okay, so let's go back and use that MP. Well, let's just write it in real fast, right? Just to get it done with. Don't know where it went to. What is the create event? No, that. What did I do? All right, so in this here, I need that MP potential. What was it? Potential step object. Was that the one I used? Gotta remember now. Yep, that looks about right. So, all right, so I want to say, oh, come on, GameMaker. Again, you're gonna do this to me? So I'm gonna say, okay, I want to go toward hero.x, hero.y. I want to go at 1 speed, and then I want to go at, I want to go with walls in the way. Not calls in the way, walls in the way. And I'm gonna, that second step I'm gonna leave alone now, because that's the thing that was causing our problems. That's what got him spinning in place when he hit a wall. Okay, so now it just comes down to the direction is still being, you know, the direction is being changed every moment the character is moving toward me. But again, what happened is if I change the image angle, I'm rotating the thing, and he got stuck in a wall. And he's just rotating, and he cannot get out of being stuck in the wall. And as terrifying as that would be if he ever got unstuck and just came at me at 1,000 miles an hour, that would be a horror story in itself. That's not what I'm trying to do. So what we've done before here is for the draw event for Mr. Slender, final step, say, okay, your image angle is now set to direction for a brief moment in the draw event. Then draw yourself, oops, and then set your image angle back to 0. So just like the player doesn't get stuck in the wall now, neither does the Slenderman. Where is he? Let's find him. There he is. Now he's no longer, so you can see that. Now he's coming after me. And now it's a fair fight. He can come get me at any time, and he just keeps on coming until whatever happens, happens. All right. Yeah, so here he is coming after me. He does not get stuck in walls anymore, no matter what, because now his bounding box never puts him in that range. Never, like the potential path stuff and all that, makes sure he never gets stuck in the wall. Cool. So there, why are you here? That looks cool now, right? I think that looks cool. I still don't know why it's doing it, but it still looks cool. Ah, there he is. And then, yep, so there you go. So there you have it. You have a fully working first good version of Slenderman at your disposal here. So the sky is the limit for what you want to add, what kind of details, what kind of backgrounds, what kind of storyline. I mean, you could, you know, I've given you everything that you need for infinite creativity from here on in. So thanks for putting up with me. So if you have any questions, if I did something wrong, or if you could do something better, especially in the drag and drop environment, because again, I can write code like nobody's business, but we got to keep the drag and drop for the drag and drop videos. So sometimes it's hard to kind of translate what you would do in code to the drag and drop elements. So let me know if you know a better way to do a lot of these things, or if I did something incorrect. swardb@cod.edu through my email, through the school, or you can leave a message here on the YouTube channel. And so for me right now, this ends my video series for the 1211 course. I have plenty of other ideas to make videos. I gotta front load my videos, make Flappy Bird, and I want to make a platformer game and make all sorts of stuff for my other classes. Have a lot of fun with this. But if you have any ideas, also send me an email, send me a comment, and I'll see if I can work in, because I always love making these kind of games and just trying something new. I've been doing this one for a few years now, and if there's a better one I could do, I'd love to do it. So anyway, enough blabbing. I am not a blabber as much as you might think so. Thanks for putting up with me. See you guys around. Have a good one.